Do you believe that staff matter and that your organization's culture matters? If that's you, then join me with my outstanding next guest, Bonnie Low-Kramen, who is a two-time best-selling author and the recent narrator of her own book, Staff Matters, a #1 Amazon bestseller, and a previous personal assistant to Academy Award-winning actress Olympia Dukakis, and the founder of Be the Ultimate Assistant for over 38 years, and a human being who knows how to get leaders, assistants, and people of all staff levels working together to create cultures that make extraordinary results. Let's go.
Hi folks, welcome to the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast by Gary Ryan from Organisations That Matter. In this podcast, Gary shares everything about servant leadership, service leadership, authentic leadership, how to create high performance cultures, service excellence, and life balance. Here's your host, Gary Ryan.
Thank you, Sienna, for your lovely introduction. As always, we love your work. Folks, as you already know through the introduction, I'm here with Bonnie Low-Kramen. This is a delight for me to have a second opportunity to speak with Bonnie. How are you going?
I'm good, Gary. Such a pleasure to be here and see you again. It feels like it's been too long.
Yes, it does feel so much like it's been too long. But the beauty of our timing is what happened 3 days ago? Well, Australian time anyway. Maybe 2 days for you.
At long last, the audiobook of Staff Matters of this.
Yeah.
When I was in the studio, I saw your pictures, with your headphones on. This 400-page book, I'm there reading for like 25 hours. It's finally out on Amazon, and I narrated it myself, just as you did. And, it must be called a labor of love and a little nuts, a little crazy, right?
And honestly, folks, when I knew, I remember actually reaching out and asking you, Bonnie, are you going to have the audiobook version of this? Because your voice reading your book is just perfect. And I've already got my copy, folks, already downloaded it, already listening, because this book is so incredibly important for any assistants worldwide, and I would actually argue any staffs worldwide, because the principles, while you've written it specifically for assistants, it's actually for staffs, and you also wrote it for leaders. You want to just give folk a little bit of an update, just in case they're not familiar with Staff Matters, and also your other bestseller, The Ultimate Assistant.
Thank you. Yeah, my first book is Be the Ultimate Assistant, and I wrote that in response to a need, because there were so few resources for assistants who were trying to support the leaders like you out there, the CEOs, the celebrities, the entrepreneurs. This second book, Staff Matters, also came out of a need, because it seemed to me that we needed a book that brought all the constituencies of the workplace between the cover of one singular book. That this is not only about the leaders. This is about the assistants, HR professionals, recruiters, business school professors, and the so-called leadership experts. Because, and I know you and I've talked about this many times, all of those groups agree that there are aspects of our workplace that are broken. And no one of those groups is going to be able to fix what's broken alone.
No.
And so that's why this book is so important. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to offer real life stories. I mean, the subtitle is Unfiltered Conversations with Staff at Every Level, in their words, walking in their shoes. My way was to ask them, questions like, what are you worried about? What do you wish people knew about your work as an HR professional? What is making you crazy as a CEO? What do you wish your staff knew that you don't think they do? And I'm happy to say that, a year, the soft cover's been out just about a year next week. And now the audiobook is out, and it's all designed, Gary, as you are too, to be a catalyst for conversations that must happen.
Yes.
The pandemic threw this workplace into such turmoil. And the people, the humans of our workplace, despite all the news about AI and ChatGPT and artificial intelligence, it's still humans who are running companies. And there's a lot of anxiety and stress still. So, leadership has to really get a hold of this, and they bear responsibility to stabilize their companies. And it's only going to happen by involving the staff, by having real conversations, right?
And one of the key staff that need to be included as leaders, as you strongly advocate, are the assistants. And too often they haven't been treated as leaders. They're directly involved with what's going on in their support of the CEO or the COO or whatever C you want to start their role title with. And yet somehow they've been excluded as a leader, which is not helpful for those leaders because of the information that they have and the connection that you've been able to eloquently share through Staff Matters that they have with the rest of the staff. They actually know what's really going on. That's a fundamental leadership role. I absolutely love how you're advocating for that. And every single assistant that I come across, I've been saying, have you heard of Bonnie Low-Kramen Staff Matters? You need to go get it. And one part of it, I know it's only a very small part of it, but it's so important that you provide it, is the outline on the position description for an assistant.
Is it the actual job description?
Yeah.
I mean, I actually spoke with an executive assistant yesterday who accepted her role and with her CEO, and it's working out great. She's a year into it, but she accepted it without a written job description.
Yeah.
And I said, frankly, you're lucky that it's worked out, and I hope that you're never going to allow that to happen again. There needs to be clarity on the roles of not only assistants in the workplace, but every role. It is so honestly irresponsible to hire someone without a written job description. What is that? I'm not quite sure. Is that laziness? Is that arrogance? I'm not quite sure, but I can tell you it is not a smart way to proceed.
It's a big black box of uncertainty and chaos. It's what it is, which probably serves, well, the leader may think it serves them, but it actually doesn't. And
no.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're both on the same page with position descriptions enable people to be able to say out loud, this is my job, this is what I'm responsible for, and for each of these things, this is how I know I'm doing a great job. That clarity is
there needs to be clear expectations for each role. And to get back to your point about involving the assistants in decisions that are being made, it's that issue is being made even more challenging in 2024 because of the way we're communicating. I mean, I realize I'm in Florida, you're in Australia, we're communicating via webcam. It's not that easy for everyone to communicate in this way. And it was hard enough pre-pandemic when people were in the office face to face. Now we're expecting people to have meaningful, somewhat complex, complicated conversations over webcam. It made even more difficult if people choose not to be on camera. The issue I'm seeing is that the workplace feels to the staff very fragmented and fractured.
Yes.
Are we going into the office or are we not going into the office? On some days, yes. Some days, no. Some people are completely remote. Leaders could be, CEOs of companies could be thousands of miles geographically away from their teams. What I hear from the staff is that there's a lot of information that isn't getting to the CEO and to top leadership. And if that's true, then the leaders are busy making decisions that have financial implications without complete information. And I see that as dangerous, very dangerous. And that just because people aren't saying something does not mean that there's no issue in play. The leaders need to be aware that they there needs to be a real intentionality to make contact with the very people who were painstakingly hired in the first place. The disconnection is not getting any better in 2024, and that concerns me, and I feel pretty sure it concerns you as well.
It's interesting because Amy Edmondson and Mark Mortensen that did the research that created psychological safety, which leads to team resilience, etc. Mark Mortensen, in about August last year, shared some updated research about this work from home, work in the office issue. And while I think everyone, and including the researchers, agree that flexibility and working from home is a part of our future going forward,
Right.
they did say that there's an aspect of being a human being about physically being in contact and belonging with other human beings is of such importance that we actually do need to be in the office for some time together. And ideally, teams need to work out. I mean, there's no point if I come in on a Monday and Friday and no one else is there on a Monday and a Friday. That defeats the purpose, right? So we do need to work out, well, what days of the week, and they were sort of arguing it should probably be more rather than less. So three, if you've got 5 days, if you're working full time, well, then probably 3 of them should actually be in the office.
Right.
And ideally at the same time. Now,
I just read an article today which said that very thing, that the polls are showing that staff are validating that the ideal schedule are 3 days in the office and 2 days remotely. Now there are some new studies raising their heads. First, remote work seemed like a miracle to the staff. Like, wow, I could do my work at home and don't have to get out of my pajamas and I can get paid for this. But the issue now is the feelings of isolation and loneliness. It's the mental health issues that are raising their head because of this, because of the point you said, that human beings need to be in the office. There's a new trend that cubicles are coming back into fashion, that people are liking being in the office, but they need to feel separation to, what's old is new again.
Yeah, wow.
And, leaders are scrambling to keep up with all of this. And I think leaders would do well to slow it down enough to have town halls again with their teams, to talk with them, to really hear for themselves what's in play right now. We lived through this big red hot emergency for a long time, the pandemic, that has taken a toll on the humans of our workplace. And now, what have we created? What is it that is going to sustain us, not only for today, but going forward? And I spend a lot of time talking with teams about that.
Yeah. Look, it's interesting. We had a mini hurricane go through our the suburb I live in Melbourne, Australia, and 2 suburbs either side of us. We were the part that this mini hurricane went through on Tuesday, our time here. And like, it looks like giants have walked through our parks, just breaking gum trees that are over 100 years old, and our streets. It was insane. It really was. I've never experienced weather like it. And, so immediately after the storm left, and there's trees blocking the streets and footpaths, so I grabbed my little battery-powered chainsaw and out I went, and so did other neighbours. And it was interesting, people just used their tools to get the job done, to clear the streets and make it as safe as we possibly could. We didn't have any certifications. We didn't have any project management plans.
Right.
We just did it as a community. Now, at the same time, there were still people driving their vehicles at the maximum limit they could around us, which was like, slow down, can't you see we're standing on a road trying to clear a tree here?
Yeah.
And so some people's world was so closed, they couldn't even see what was going on around them. Now, lots of people did, so I want to focus on the positive. But I guess the point that I'm trying to highlight with that example is even in an extreme moment like that, you really get to see where people are at. You get to see the people that go, hey, I'm part of the community. That's not my property, but I'm going to go help. And you see other people that go, whatever their focus is, I'm just here, and that's all that matters, right? And I will plow on through, even if people are trying to clean up their community. Okay.
Yeah.
Now this issue. So why am I sharing this? Is that this whole issue about getting back to the workplace, it's a two-way street. It's not only the organizations and the CEOs that absolutely have to get back to their town halls, etc. It's individuals also have to say, hey, I have to be responsible for me being connected too. Now that might mean actually I would prefer to go in on a Monday, but no one else is, and everyone else is saying that they're going to go in on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then maybe I need to go in on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is actually better for me, even though initially it's not what I really want.
Yeah. My community, as you know, is mostly executive assistants. And even though the rule is that people are going to go in on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, what many of them are doing is that if they know that there's an important meeting happening on a Monday or a Friday or both, they are connected to their responsibilities enough that they just choose to go in to be there. There's a thing called proximity bias, which is now a trend where the people who choose to go into the office actually have an advantage over those who are consistently choosing, or maybe they don't even have a choice, to be at home or working remotely. It's not that those challenges are, insurmountable, but if you're literally in the office, you have proximity to the leaders making decisions in real time, and that can have its advantages. So, the humans of our workplace are making decisions. Really, in many times it comes down to, what do you believe about is it a job or is it your career? Is it, are you connected to the company's mission and vision? And do you have a sense of purpose? In the aftermath of the pandemic, the people who are resigning very quickly and have very little loyalty, they really do not know or understand their purpose at the company. And therefore, why should they have loyalty if they're sitting there with a feeling, well, nobody's caring very much about me. Why should I care about them?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to chew on for leaders and HR in this current environment, I see.
And, you're talking about, well, no one's caring about me. We do know with the staff engagement research that if you believe the person you report to cares about you, you are more than likely going to feel engaged with the workplace. So that's an absolute important role for leaders, to be demonstrating genuine care for people and, being interested, trying to work with them about how they can help. But equally, as a human being, we have a role to care too, because sometimes it's like, who's caring about the leaders? Who's caring about the assistants? Who's showing care to them, because they're a human being too. And, we were chatting before the show started, Bonnie, about the fact that globally for the last 12 years, we've sort of moved 1% in the either up or down in the total number of staff being engaged at work, which is last year was a world record at 23%. But at the bottom end of that scale, certainly in the United States, we know it's 18% of actively disengaged. That's nearly 2 out of 10 people. And in my country, Australia, it's 11%, which is 1 out of 10 people. Actively disengaged means they're consciously and are willing enough to even report that to the research, consciously taking actions that is detrimental to their organisation. That's sad for the individual. It's bad for the organisation. It's bad for our community.
And the thing is, from where I sit, staff wants to be engaged. They want to be enthusiastic about going into the office. And most staff would agree that the company culture is driven by the top.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I did a TEDx talk a couple of years ago, and it still remains very true that the top 4 things that people want in a job are to feel respected, valued, fairly compensated, and offered opportunities for growth. And it really is that simple, that the staff who are going to quit are the ones who feel that they don't belong, that they don't believe anyone really cares about them, and they especially want to leave if they're aware that the rules aren't fair.
Well,
There's never going to be a totally fair environment,
no,
but there are some organizations that have a reputation where, groups, there's favoritism. And when that is in play, and sometimes that has to do with salary, sometimes that has to do with promotions, that has to do with titles. When it is generally perceived that it's a no-win situation, I can't win in this situation, then they're like, you know what? I'm out. And before they're out, they may do some damage on the way out. And leaders need to know this. It gives me no pleasure to say this, which is one of the reasons I wrote Staff Matters. I want to pull the curtain back on what staff are really thinking and feeling, because they tell me, Bonnie, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to say the truth. The workplace is so filled with fear. Fear of repercussions, fear of backlash, fear of being labeled a troublemaker. So there isn't any motivation, any upside for being the messenger, for being the person who is the truth teller. So I thought to myself, well, I'm not afraid. I'll be the truth teller.
Yeah, you are not afraid, Bonnie. You are strong human being. And interesting.
I've got kids. We want it to be better for them, right?
100%. Yeah, you even got grandchildren. You're that lucky. You've got grandchildren that we need to make it.
And, before I blink, they're going to be in the workplace. And, the workplace has just undergone so much change that unless I feel like we're at a moment, we have an opportunity right now with the people on staff who remember life before the pandemic and they lived through it, and now we're on the other side of it. We need to really be intentional about what are we building for the rest of 2024 and into 2025. Like, it's different now. There isn't a person I talk to who doesn't agree that even if you've been doing your work for a really, really, really long time, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, there are a lot of things about this workplace in 2024 that feels new. That feels different and new, right?
Well, we've had a couple of laws get brought in here, which, to be brutally honest, I understand why the laws have come in, but I'm not sure that it's great that we've created the laws because of what it's doing to potentially reduce personal responsibility for people. And so one law is now all CEOs and leaders are responsible for the mental health of their employees. So the intent of that is really important, but making it a law potentially will get people to abdicate their responsibility for their mental health to the leaders. It's you're to look after my mental health. I'm not sure how that works, to be brutally honest. And it worries me that people will default to that position. I hope not. The second one is a week ago in my state, a law came out that it's now illegal for leaders to communicate with staff out of hours.
Oh, I read that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, particularly for assistants, I don't know how that's going to work.
There's a CEO I know, and she puts it this way. She says, Bonnie, there's front channel communications, which is what that is, that it's a rule. You can't communicate on off hours. And then there's back channel communications. And I would venture to say that if an assistant and or a CEO has a need to reach out at 9 o'clock at night or on the weekend, or they're traveling, and so it's a different time zone, whatever, they're going to do it. And no one's going to report anybody. And I think there's going to be communication on the back channel. That's what I think.
Because my concern with that is, let's say someone's ambitious as an assistant, okay? And they're more than happy to support their leader whenever. And within boundaries, of course, that are clear, and with that clear role, and they've got those clear expectations. And they actually have something. So imagine this scenario. It's actually the assistant communicating first. The leader is then in a dilemma if it's out of hours. If I now respond and there's evidence that I respond, I'm the one breaking the law, not them. And so that may force the scenario where it's like you can't actually be proactive to some degree. I mean, I just know with my career, I just never really worried about 9 to 5. It's never been a concept that I can.
Chances are, Gary, they did not involve any assistance in the creation of that law, or it seems like it was a reaction to some really egregious behavior.
Oh, no doubt. Yes.
There's no doubt about that. And, people really taking unfair advantage of that,
yes.
Expecting answers at 3 a.m. or whatever. I think what it's going to do is it's going to create a climate for a conversation, that yes, this law exists. I'm going traveling on this particular week. Can we agree that if there's an emergency that I am able to reach out either way? And I think that's valuable. Anything that creates an environment where it's a give and take, it's a two-way street, as you said,
yes.
About conversation. Assistants do not make the kind of money that their leaders do.
No.
And so it's not fair to think that an assistant is going to work the same exact hours that leaders, CEOs, business owners, like, we're crazy. We will work 12-hour, 14-hour days, whatever. But I certainly don't expect my assistant to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the faulty thinking in play. So I think it's a good thing if we can have the conversation. But the law, I think it's going to be a little dicey.
It's going to be until it gets tested in courts, I suppose. But coming back to culture, right? Just yesterday, I wrote an article on LinkedIn about a true story that I know firsthand, and I had to change the person's name and character.
Okay.
But this person's been in an organisation for a year. A team member, got very strong background in leadership, like had 100 people reporting to them. And this is in a purchasing area for a sort of semi-government organisation. Various things had gone over the last year, and they'd end up acting 2 levels higher. They get to the end of last year and they decide they're going to advertise for the role. They want this person to do it now. This person financially does not need any more money, but they've chosen to keep working because of connection and feeling like a contribution. But they decided they don't want the stress associated with being late. Anyway, they were encouraged to apply internally. Now, this is in regional Victoria, so it's a country town where the job's located. They get they're the successful applicant, even though it was advertised externally. Okay, and they're told you are the perfect person for this role.
Mm-hmm.
Their current salary is $95,000, and the job range for this job is actually a level 4. They're currently a level 3, which is 95. That range goes from 95 to 134, but it was only advertised to a maximum of 122, which, even though the numbers don't add up for this, the way that system works, that's the midpoint of the salary range.
Okay.
So then they go in, and the people that this person's then to negotiate their salary with, neither of them were included in the negotiation process. So none of them had been part of the group of people that said you're perfect for the role. Mm-hmm. Right? And now this person's supposed to negotiate their salary with these people, one of whom had started 5 days earlier in the organisation, who'd come from another country.
Okay.
Who doesn't know anything yet, right? So they repeat, you're perfect for the job, and they said, okay, we'd like to congratulate you. Yeah. Here's the offer, $100,000. And the person says, okay, I've been involved with this on your side a lot in the past. If the maximum is $122,000, I always start there, and if there's gaps, we work our way down. Now, as we both know, 122 is only in the midpoint of this range anyway. Can you explain why I'm not starting at 122? They're shocked. that the person wasn't celebrating that they'd been offered this job. The two people were shocked, like completely did not expect that response. In fact, did not expect a negotiation, in other words. Okay. So it turns out that the person...
Time out a second. If it had been a man, it would have been different.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been so shocked if he had negotiated. And I stand behind that statement. Go ahead.
Yes. For the sake of clarity, it actually was a man. I changed the gender for my article. Interesting. Very interesting. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And they were shocked that he...
They were shocked that he was prepared to negotiate.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's not in the article, and that was just to protect the person as much as I could.
Okay.
I flipped. And this person's in their 60s as well. So I didn't give their age in the article, but they appear.
But what ended up happening?
So the person said, well, they started making up things. Well, you don't have strategic experience, and then it's a team leader role, Bonnie. It's not even a management role. It's actually a team leader role, and this person was actually had the PD and said, can you please point out to me where the words strategy or strategic exist in this position description, because I can't see them even once. You're talking about your level, not this level, right? And so, we can't move. And then they said it's internal policy that because you're an internal applicant, you have to start at the bottom end of the scale, which is actually not even, they just made it up. They panicked and made it up, which is actually a form of discrimination. So this is potentially going somewhere. In the end, they stopped the conversation, and the actual general manager said, I'm so disappointed that you're not accepting what we've offered here. We've done the best we can, and I'm going to go and cry myself to sleep tonight.
Oh, they made it personal.
Oh, made it completely personal, right? Now, which is just... Now, this person, I know them personally, was definitely engaged with the organisation, and in one foul swoop, they have neutron bombed that person's engagement. Now, no less than 30 colleagues wanted to know what happened there. Like, what, you were a shoo, and you were clearly the best person for the job, and then so he's told them the truth. Now he's been brought back in. What are you telling people that he said, well, it's the truth. You didn't offer me, and people can't believe it. So the ripple effect of this is extraordinary for this particular organisation. That person's already this week started looking for another job. They're renting in the town. They can move. They don't need, it's just the leadership, and to not understand, it's just like, how can you not understand that this is just appalling? Eventually they offered 108 and still couldn't believe. And the new person actually had actually said, can't you see we're doing the best we can? We're willing to negotiate, but you're not. Because they got to 108, he still rejected it.
So what happened to the people who said that he was the best person for the job? Did they not have any clout to intervene?
Unfortunately, no. Equally shocked, but and like even their organisational development people, which is in that organisation what they call their HR people elsewhere, nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. So there's a perception that the rules aren't fair, that there was discrimination in play. And when that goes through a company, that's like poison through a company, because they're thinking, well, if this could happen to him and he was so well qualified, it could absolutely happen to me. And so then you've got a lot of people going into survival mode. They're like, I better, be looking. I better be looking. And then when somebody's looking, that's a piece of their brain that's not completely, dedicated, committed to that job. It's really a cautionary tale that you're telling for many companies, and hopefully somebody figures out, this was handled poorly, and can we do better next time? Frankly, they've got damage control to do, and they really should go somewhat transparent on the policies going forward. Because if these salary bands are common knowledge, then, where's the disconnect here? Yeah.
Honestly, for $22,000, the damage will be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
This is a
Yes.
billion-dollar organization.
Very
It's going to
excellent
be in the
point.
hundreds, if not millions of dollars, the damage.
You're right.
Anyone that understands economics will understand that that's how, because the discretionary effort that's going to be reduced, not by so many people, because you're right, everyone just goes, this is just blatantly unfair. This is, if not illegal even, right? I think this person, but the person goes, you know what, could I really be bothered going down the legal path? I can't be bothered.
Right. Most
I'll
people
just go
won't
get another
go
job.
to a lawyer, but the it's almost like those two people doing the negotiation were treating it like it was their money, like it
Yes.
wasn't the organization's money. And I realize HR and the hiring folks, recruiters, have a responsibility to the whole, to have salaries be somewhat, orderly. But in the aftermath of the pandemic, people were being hired in an emergency basis. So they were throwing money at people over. So the salaries in many companies are out of whack right now. They don't make any sense. And the best move is for the leadership to be transparent about what are they going to do about this,
Because it's interesting with the biases, right? Because you know how you immediately were talking about it being probably because they were surprised it was a female negotiating. They were equally surprised it was someone in their 60s negotiating, an older person negotiating, is my take on that. That there's, in our country, there is discrimination towards people more experienced. That, you're at the end of your career, like, what are you negotiating for, sort of thing. It's like,
wow.
yeah. So that's my take. This is, folks listening, this is just purely my take on it, based on my experience. It's like there's an element of that, and that's what the person felt. It's like I'm just not being seen as an equal human being here. Now, what is interesting, another layer to this, and you briefly mentioned AI earlier. To me, there must be human beings in that system, including the ones that were involved with the recruitment process, that were then not involved with the negotiation process, who have then empathized and sympathized and said this is not right, but equally still not influenced anything, not changed the outcome. If we create scenarios in organizations where being a human being has no extra value because of what you're seeing as a human being, that this is not right, okay, we are setting ourselves up for those jobs to be replaced by AI. Because if the human element no longer has any value or contribution, it is replaceable. Does this make sense?
It totally makes sense. But I continue to believe that AI is ultimately going to be a tool for humans to use. And
Yes.
and in recruitment, there are all these articles, is AI going to replace HR? I certainly hope that it does not. I mean, AI can certainly do rapid searches through hundreds of resumes for sure, but ultimately it needs to be human beings who are looking to see, good fit, not good fit. And if it means slowing things down some, I say it must be done. That,
Yes.
unless we want robots, people are not going to trust only robots to tell them what to do. They're just not.
And Bonnie, this is the point I'm trying to get across to folks, is those human beings were acting like robots. They weren't being human. They were like, surely you can tell if this was you, this is wrong. Surely someone involved with that had to know this is just wrong.
Yeah.
Right. But it's the policy, or a made up policy on the spot, is just,
right.
That's what,
And then
that's what algorithms do.
what's with the crying myself to sleep at night comment? Like, what is that? This is business we're talking about. This is a business decision. This is about people's careers.
Yes.
Women are used to executives making it personal, saying,
Yes.
I'm not going to allow you to, they behave like, the assistant is cheating on them or something if they want to have the audacity to apply for a different job. And so it's not as common with men, but that's
No.
an interesting thing that you believe that there was some ageism in play here.
Yes.
Rules are rules. Salary bands are salary bands. Is it true or is it not true? Like, that's why, if leaders think that staff does not know when there are unfair practices in play, they're mistaken, because that kind of information goes around like wildfire.
We have a saying here in Australia called that goes along the lines of, does it pass the pub test? So if you're in a bar, so we call bars a pub.
Right.
So if you're sitting around having a beer and this story's getting told, are people going to say, "Oh, that was fair," or are people going to say, "No, that's just not right"? And
let me tell you about another company that treats their people better.
Yeah. So what's a really important message from you, and I want to strongly advocate, please go and listen to the Audible version of Staff Matters, because with Staff Matters, again, in your voice, that's why I was been so excited for you to do it. And I can appreciate the pain of 25 hours in a studio.
Yeah.
I only had to do 10. My gosh, 25 hours.
And they were beautiful days, too. They were beautiful days outside, and there we were in soundproof, dark rooms. But it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
My message to the staff of our workplace are that leaders at this moment do not have all the answers. And frankly, I don't think they've ever had all the answers. Our move going forward to build something better, or what I term as an ultimate workplace, is that we must insist on having meaningful conversations.
Yes.
That we need to kind of take a fresh look at how we're running things. We need to have written job descriptions. We need to have titles that reflect what people actually do. And we need to share with the staff our philosophy on salaries at companies, because this is not charity work. People are doing work, hopefully meaningful work that they care very much about, but they're doing it to pay their bills and make a living. And they're hired for a reason. People are hired for reasons. Sometimes companies spend a lot of money hiring people. It is not advised to abuse them and demean them and diminish them and to treat them unfairly. It's not smart business. So the staff really does matter. If you've hired people in the first place, let's choose to take care of them. And you know what? The other last thing is that people understand when mistakes happen. Mm-hmm. If leadership can only own it and say, we haven't handled that all that well, but you know what? We want to do better. We want to know what you think, and we intend to do better. And why would they do that? In order to, stop the stampede for the exit. It's costing companies a lot of money to replace people and to, so it serves them to hold on to their high performers, to their people who, have served them and know the culture and have a lot of institutional knowledge. That's worth money. That 60-year-old sitting there, my goodness, what that man has in his mind. And now they're going to lose him. Doesn't sound smart to me.
No, it's not smart. And look, that's just one example, unfortunately, of many. And you go, my gosh, it's 2024. We're already halfway through February in 2024. And how do people just not know? And this is why Staff Matters, Be the Ultimate Assistant are so important resources for people. Anyone at any level in an organisation, these resources are going to help you to be able to have those conversations, because they arm folk with the information to be able to go and have a conversation, whether they're a leader or a staff. Yeah. And my book, Yes for Success, is really about, on a personal level, clarifying your own unique personal vision and then coming up with some clear steps that are unique to you to help you create that, which includes your career. And one of the things that I'm really, really passionate about, Bonnie, is that, and you will totally relate to this, is that when each of my 5 children were born and I was holding them for the first time, like, they were extraordinary. They were born extraordinary. And I believe every human being was born extraordinary. Even one of my great friends who lives in Minnesota, he unfortunately wasn't born alive, and he was revived after birth. And when he was handed to his mother, you could imagine how extraordinary he was for her. Now, a year later, they discovered that as a result of what had happened at birth, he has cerebral palsy. Now, he's an unbelievably extraordinary human being at 31 years of age. But my point is, he was born extraordinary too, right? Every single human being was born extraordinary, but for a whole bunch of reasons, even by the time that they're even under 10 years of age, I believe a lot of our human beings don't believe they're extraordinary anymore. And certainly by the time they're an adult, they don't believe they are.
Yeah.
And my mission with Yes for Success is help people to reconnect with the natural extraordinariness that they were born with. And even if it's just being extraordinarily ordinary, that makes for a better world, right?
What a wonderful purpose. And and I'm sure your children are testament to that philosophy. It's wonderful. I just love knowing you, Gary. I love knowing the work you're doing with Yes for Success and all the work you're doing. It's so important, and you're so popular on YouTube. And please, 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 if you're listening, I feel like I want to go there right now and take a listen to more of the work you're doing. It just I feel hopeful when I know that you're doing this work and you're thousands and thousands of miles away, and I'm doing the work I'm doing in Florida, and a lot of great people are working hard and alert to the issues in play. So, how can we miss if we keep climbing that mountain?
Oh, look, and look, the beauty of the work that you and I do is we are meeting the people that are aligned, and we're all singing from the same song sheet. We've all got our unique perspectives on it, but there are people that really are passionate and care and are putting in the hard work. I mean, I know how hard you work. I know how hard I work, and it's because of the purpose is worth it. The mission is worth it, right?
Yeah. And I have great empathy for the leadership of companies out there. It's a lot of pressure, and they just don't have to do it alone. That they've got a whole staff of people who, if they feel safe, we started with that, with psychological safety. When people feel safe, they will tell the CEO anything he or she wants to hear. But if they don't feel safe, they're not going to say anything. So thank you, Gary, for continuing the work you're doing. I think it's wonderful.
Now, we'll have all the links in the show notes, Bonnie, but what would be some of the best ways for folks to be able to reach out and connect with you and get into your community and learn more about stuff?
I hope that anyone listening will follow me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I identify as a writer first and foremost. So I write tons of articles and blog posts. I feel, the power of words, and you're a writer as well. My website is my name, BonnieLow-Kramen.com, and there's lots of free resources on the site. I teach my class, Be the Ultimate Assistant, and I'm certainly open to going into companies in person, virtually, all in the effort to build something better for ourselves, for our kids, for our grandkids, because don't we want it to be better for them?
Yes.
That's it.
And equally, folks, because I'm aware I have a global audience, including places like India and China, etc., and a lot of Southeast Asian countries. Bonnie's work is global, 100% global. I'm not sure how many countries that you've worked in or taught in now, but certainly through the virtual work you do, you've got people from all over the world that have been engaged. So those of you that are tuning in from places other than the United States or Australia, Bonnie's work is global, folks. Tap into it.
Yeah, thank you so much. As long as we speak English, I'm good. I can manage a little bit in Spanish, but we're going to stick with English. And let's keep fighting the good fight, folks. Let's do this together. Gary and I, neither one of us can do this alone. So that's why we're counting on you all.
So, folks, once again, I just want to say thank you for your time, Bonnie. I really appreciate it.
Mwah. Thank you, Gary. Hugs to those kids and that wife of yours.
That's right. So, folks, once again, I'm the host of the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast, author of Yes for Success, How to Achieve Life Harmony and Fulfillment. It's available in all formats, ebook, physical, hardback as well, and also out on Audible just 6 days ago. There's also a program called Awe Sound. Now, Bonnie might be interested in this with your performing arts background, but Awe Sound is a platform that enables audiobooks to be played on the Apple Podcast app or the Google Podcast app, but the author gets to receive 80% of the fee. Whereas with Audible, we both know it's nothing like that. They certainly take a bigger chunk. So Mark Moriarty, who created Awe Sound in San Francisco, has done that deliberately to actually help authors around the world to be able to get rewarded for their time and effort into their resources. And it plays just as easily as it does on Audible. So folks, go and check that out, option out as well. You might want to check that out for your book because there's nothing stopping you going there too.
Yeah, no one writes a book to get rich. That's for
100%. That is for sure. That's for sure. So folks, please check out yesforsuccess.guru. Once again, we've been absolutely delighted to have Bonnie Low-Kramen with us as our guest on the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast. And we'll see you all again next episode.